Hello, listeners, and welcome back to ND 5.18. And as always, I am your host, Ender. Today we'll be going over the color green in our Magic the Gathering Color Pie Breakdown series. And this will be the second video. The first one was black. And I would like to apologize for the delay. This video was supposed to be up last week, but how life happens, But without further ado, let's get into it. The color green is represented by the forest, as you can clearly see. The first portion of green that we'll be going over is Instinct, which is showcased in cards like Back to Nature. It states, destroy all enchantments. The second card is Cosmic Hunger, which states, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature, planeswalker, or a battle. The third card we'll be going over is Carnage Tyrant. Carnage Tyrant can't be countered, it has trample, hexproof, and it has a 7/6 body. The final card is Garruk's Uprising, which states when Garruk's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Also, creatures you control have trample. And finally, whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This is all summed up in walking through any obstacle and destroying all defenses. Instinct is just the pure, just unadulterated of, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to reduce my opponent's life points from 20 to 0 in a more moderate pace. Unlike Red's fast, manic energy, this is more a controlled inevitability. The next portion of green that we'll be going over is Interdependence, which is showcased in cards like Llanowar Elves, which states you can tap this creature and it creates a green mana. Next is Wolfwillow Haven, an enchantment that states whenever an enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green. Also, tap 5, sacrifice Wolfwillow Haven, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. You can only activate this during your return. Number 3 is Collected Company, a staple in Modern, and they've even made newer versions of this, which you'll see as we go further along. Collected Company states, look at the top 6 cards of your library, put up the 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This card is actually really good, and I'm pretty sure all the long-time players have faced this and lost to it, had to learn how to sideboard against it. It is truly a good card, y'all. Next is Old Growth Troll, which is one of the newer cards amongst all these. It states, trample, when Old Growth Troll dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant force you control, and enchanted force has add 2 green, and tap 1, sacrifice this land, create a tapped 4/4 green troll warrior creature token with trample. So pretty much it becomes a Wolfwillow Haven when it dies, and then can be sacrificed and come back as another Old Growth Troll. Summed up in, the whole is more than its parts in the grand scheme. Now we'll move to our Planeswalker showcase. So for this case, for Instinct, we will be showcasing Garruk Unleashed, or Garruk Unleashed. And in my opinion, he sums up Instinct the best, with his ability stating, +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. His -2, which states create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Then if an opponent controls more creatures than you put a loyalty counter on Garruk Unleashed. And his -7, which states you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Now this and him is all summed up in rise to the apex predator and devour all. But one thing you should really, for you lore people out there, like I'm one of them, that want to really appreciate this and what green can offer. See, Garruk was a serial killer. Yes, I know. He started out just being a hunter, just going from world to world hunting the best game out there, right? Because that's his creed. That's his philosophy in life. But then he ran afoul of a black planeswalker named Liliana Vess, who you may see, in a showcase video down the line. All right. She cursed him. It brought out a more, not evil, more like a darker nature of the hunter in him. And he began to hunt other planeswalkers, and he was decently successful at it. Yeah. And now Wizards of the Coast, the creators of the game, gave him his redemption arc, kind of like, it's very interesting. But I'll also spotlight something else in the other Grand Planeswalker that we'll be going over. And that Planeswalker will be Nissa Revan. And in this case, Nissa Who Shakes the World. Nissa, she sums up the interdependent side of green, which is also the most used aspect of green. Now this is all just playing off of each other with creatures that, like Llanowar Elves that tap for mana, or things that multiply mana, like Wolfwillow Haven, and just ramp. That's what green is known for the most, and that's what people use the most. Though, as you saw in Instinct, there are other viable options. Now, Nissa, like Garruk, she had a more colorful flavor. She was xenophobic in the past, before her retcon. She saw elves as the top and everyone else below, and she sought out ways to promote that dominance. Now, since her retcon, she is more of your flower lover, animist, which means she talks to the actual spirit of each world that she's on. She can summon elementals who voluntarily do her bidding. Now, this Nissa in particular is one of her strongest ones, if not the strongest. And the abilities on state, static ability, which is whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional green. Her +1, put 3+1/+1 counters on up to one target non-creature land you control. Untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste that's still a land. That means it's a 3/3 vigilance haste. You can still tap it for 2 mana. Thanks for other ability. And her -8, which states you get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards, put them onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle your library. And she is summed up in, she and interdependence is summed up in, the land will survive long after people are gone. Honestly, I'm waiting for her to have that as a quote. Now, let's get to the reputation of green. Math is for blockers. You will have heard many a creature-based player say that. It is a trope. It's funny. It's funny as hell, honestly. I've said it. Everyone I know has said it at some point or another. Because it really is true. Green has the biggest creatures, and they just swarm you and just pound you into the dirt. And it just comes down to math is for blockers. I'm going to swing this overwhelming force at you, and can you survive it? And if you do, I will swing again. And can you survive that one? And that's what it comes down to. Now, the other part of the reputation is green is seen as the strongest color. In all honesty, I cannot refute that. I personally believe it's true too, because it's just it had its time. It had like a year, maybe 2 years, where green just got answers to everything. Green could do everything. It could stop everything. Now it's kind of being, brought back in check by other colors like red and black. Actually, honestly, this is a black time. I'm just admit it. Rakdos Scam, as I mentioned before. Now, the format that green is still prevailing in is Pioneer. Mono Green Devotion is an amazing deck. I do believe it does need to be, have some checks and balances put in place, but that's where it's strongest right now. There's always going to be Mono Green Tron, which is in Modern, though that just kind of facilitates Tron, which is colorless, which is going to be for that video. Now, in Commander, though, majority of players have at least one green deck. There's some that only play stuff for green. And that segues into the third point, which is enabler for degeneracy. Green has lost its, outside of Mono Green Tron and Mono Green Devotion, green has lost its standalone reputation. It's now just a adjacent color and add on, and it can still stand on its own 2 feet, but people don't want to use it like that. And its fourth reputation point is trample and overrun. Look at Elf Ball, and it's just, I'm going to make giant army, all X something big, run over you and everything you have to stand for, and then I'm gonna do it again. So it kind of connects with methods for blockers as well. Now these are some key cards that are appearing in different green base decks. Primeval Titan is an enabler for degeneracy. It states it has trample. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. You can see it in the Gates deck, and it's banned in Commander and Modern. It's in a deck called like Scape Shift, Primeval Titan. Titan Shift is the name of the deck. It's still good. Endurance, I believe it's broken. I think this entire cycle of Evoke Elementals is broken. It should not be a thing. Endurance killed Mill and facilitated so many other decks, like the Rhino deck, for instance. Like, easy sideboard card for them. Like Endurance, I think it should have been. It should be banned, honestly, in my opinion. Hot take. Then there's Storm the Festival, which is the Pioneer format version of Collected Company. And it states, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put up the 2 permanent cards with mana value 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The difference between it and Collected Company is it has flashback, which means it has 2 shots with each copy of the card. Flashback means you can play it for that cost down there from the graveyard. Then there's Dryad the Ilson Grove, which is also used in the Titan Shift deck, and also just a color fix in Commander. In every format it's legal in. It's honestly really good. It's really good. It lets you play non-green cards in a either predominantly green deck or in a 2, 3, 4, 5 color deck. It's like Omnath loves that card. Now, I didn't read Endurance, and I didn't read Dryad, but that's right up on the screen because it's very clear to see why they're strong cards. But now I'm gonna move on. Now we move on to my favorite part of this little breakdown. Things to remember. Out of all the colors, green has the best answer to everything. Someone's countering your stuff, green got you. Someone's trying to destroy your stuff, green got you. Someone's trying to target you, green got you. You need to gain some life too, green got you. Remember that, people. Green got you. Second point, inevitability. That's the name of the game for green, via the mana dorks, the additional land drops, or just ramping in general. Green helps you expedite your game plan in a more controlled, steady fashion versus red's abrupt, like boom, in the moment. Okay? Next is direct removal is scarce in green, but creature power-based removal, plentiful. And they're coming up with new ways for your creature's power to be able to target non-creature permanents. It's amazing, right? What green can do, truly. Finally, artifacts and enchantment-based strategies are easily halted. They can be started up in green, but green also stops them. It's like its own worst enemy. Now, some cards to highlight here are Heroic Intervention. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. What I said, green got you. Veil of Summer. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until end of turn. Green got you. Azusa, Lost but Seeking. You may play 2 additional land drops on each of your turns. Turn 3, guess what? You got 4 mana on that. Okay? Beautiful. Now, An example of this direct removal based on creature power is Animus Might. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature you control. Take note of that. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Green got you. Then there's Fade from History, which states each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token. Then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Versatile, hits everything. Come on, you're green. You have bear creatures in the 2/2 little bear cup there. Hey, name of the game. Green got you. Now we move on to the risk assessment. The strengths. Number 1, overrunning your opponent creatures with trample based effects. I pointed out in multiple slides, it really is just that strong. Number 2, mana acceleration via land or creatures for tempo advantage. Another great strength. Number 3, target denial abilities like Hexproof and Shroud, including uncounterable. Once again, green got you. Number 4, which I haven't touched on that much, but it's still a very, very strong part of green. Token generation and token doubler based effects. Okay? Moving on to weaknesses. Mass removal stops all creature based strategies. So there's that, but that's not really a weakness. Like, just for green, it affects all creature based strategies. Number 2, more commonly seen as an accompanying color versus mono, which is 1. Once again, green can still stand on its own, but you don't see it do it as often because people would much rather combine it with another color. Now, and the final weakness, its own worst enemy, especially in enchantment and wow you base matchups. Yes, I cannot stress enough. Green truly is the strongest color because its only like real weakness is green, and that's just how it is with that. Next, we have notable tribes, and chiefly among them, elves. Now, elves have access to lords, and lords are creatures that care for their tribe, either giving abilities like +1/+1, +2/+1, lifelink, death touch, things of that nature. Elves also have access to mana acceleration and cards like Llanowar Elf, which can tap itself to make a green mana. There are many elves just like that, and their whole premise is tap elf to make more elf. Then there are +1/+1 counter generation, which is an aspect of green that I haven't really touched on this video, but it is a steadily strong ability in green that it shares with blue. Alright? But there's enough pieces of it in green that means it can be on this list. Then there's token generation. Yes, there are elves that make more elves. It boggles the mind, I know. Secondly is the Hydra. Hydra is the big power, big bravado creature of green. It has +1/+1 counter synergies as well, and also counter doubling effects that go along with it. Number 3 is tree folk. True, the most commonly seen tree folk are in white, black, green, but there are enough pieces in mono green tree folk to give you a decently powerful deck that has some very fun tribal action with it. With its big toughness matters, its land ramping based synergies, and tribal. And I'm not talking about lord effects, I mean just other tribal synergy. Finally, we have the worm, or big perm as they say. Full of big power, selective blocking, stating things like creature with power 2 or 3 or less can't block these creatures, and green matter based effects like intimidate, for instance. All 4 of these tribes are good, decently powerful, if not overtly overpowered themselves, and I believe at least the last 3 should see more support. Hey everybody, we're getting to the end of the video now, and this is tips and advice for a mentor. Number 1, temporary growth effects have fallen out of favor, but they are still good. For instance, look at this card, Boon of Besager. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among permanents you control, and then you untap the creature. You declare it as an attacker, you pay the 2, it untaps itself, it gets the boost, like it has a vigilance. And it's not just this ability. When I first started playing Magic, there was a card called Unnatural Growth. It was 1 green and X. You tap the 1 green, and as much mana as you want to put into it, target creature got +X until end of turn. I snuck out a lot of victories like that. And it's good to see effects like this are still there, even though people don't use them. Now, number 2, the ability to control blocking is at your disposal. Yes, green can decide how people are going to block, and it's not new. Take this card for instance, Roar of Challenge. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. Ferocious. That creature gains indestructible until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. This is not the only one. Green has plenty of abilities, plenty of enchantments or sorceries that make people block a certain way, or all have to block a certain creature. It's a strong ability, and it makes it easier than having to rely on trample and overrun base abilities as often as green does. Then we get cards like Choke, which is in number 3. Color hate is plentiful despite players' dismissal of it. Okay? People are going to say it's unfun. They're going to say, oh no, this goes against the ability to play Magic. I'm going to be straight up with all of y'all listening to this video, especially you green players out there. People want you to let them win. That's the disconnect here that people aren't understanding. They want you to let them win and be happy about it. That's not how this works. That's not how any game works. Okay? The sooner people realize that, the sooner this game can get back to being healthy. Now, I'm going to pull back from the mic now and get back into this. So, a form of color hate is Choke. It says islands don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Yes, green has access to this. It can shut down the control player. And I am a control player, so I understand, like, this card hurts me. But guess what? As a control player, I know you have this, so I have the ability to answer it. Interaction is a fair part of the game, right? And just like green can have their own form of control, other colors have their own form of control. It's nothing set in stone is what I'm trying to say. Okay? And you should learn from this. And if you don't want to be that guy, you can be softer and you can play Compost, which states whenever a black card is put into an opponent's graveyard, you may draw a card. Yeah, that personal dollar removal, guess what? You can have yourself a natural card draw engine based off them killing your stuff or killing anyone's stuff at the table. It just looks amazing, don't it? It's a built-in little synergy. Because that's all the black player wants to do anyways, is play removal, play discard spells. They can refill your hand easy with Compost. Okay? Number 4, avoid overcommitting to any situation. If you can win with 2 creatures, I left it open in like that because I'm like, if you can win with 2 creatures, win the game with 2 creatures. Don't be extra. Don't play 3, 4 more creatures to try to go in for 200 damage or whatever you're trying to do. It's not worth it. You're gonna get a board wiped. You're gonna play into spot removal. Win the game in the efficient way that you have. Okay. You play 2 creatures, you beat face. If they can't remove those 2 creatures, they lose. Why would you play a 3rd creature into that? You not know how many games as a control player, that has happened to me, right? I'm waiting on them to play the 3rd creature, and when they do, I punish them immensely for it. Or I'm waiting for them to add more to their board, and they're smart about it, and they don't, and now I have to waste my removal when I know they have more creatures, more cards in their hand to pressure me. Okay? And also just want to throw in Fog, which is prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. There's a deck in Pauper. It was a deck in Pioneer, and I believe Modern as well, called Turbo Fog. Fog-based effects are plentiful in Magic, just like Roar of the Challenge. Creature control, like blocking based effects, are there. People don't use it. These are all strong parts of green that need more love from the community. And I just want to showcase a creature in Elder Gargaroth. This thing is 5 mana cost, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. It's a 6/6. When it attacks, when it blocks, you can make either a 3/3, you could gain 3 life, or you can draw a card. I just want to showcase that for all the people that say green is not the strongest, green creatures are basic. Yes, it dies to removal, as everything should, right? But look at that bad boy. You can't tell me this. You can't tell me red's not struggling against that. Like, it is what it is. Every color got their strengths and weaknesses. I'm just trying to point it out. Like, green has access to some amazing things, and people are using it very one-dimensionally. But on that note, I'm gonna wrap it up. That's the end of my tips and advice. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all once again for tuning in to the ND 5.18 presented MTG Color Breakdown series, and this is green. As always, I am your host, Ender. I appreciate any comments, shares, likes, views. It's all very, very welcomed here. And as always, live you all's best life and be well. Bye, everybody.